Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This is Radhika here again. So, this is going to be another video on the same topic, how to recover yourself after narcissistic abuse. So, basically, what this covers is when you have gone through like an ego dissolution because of narcissistic abuse in your life, and you're trying to kind of get your life back on track and focus on yourself, which is called as self love. So self love is like also physical, like taking care of your physical body and your nutrition and exercise and all of that, and your mental health. But it's also about knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, knowing what your point of views are, etc. And I can understand that people who grew up with narcissistic people find this even more difficult to do, or even after you have been in a long term situation with a narcissistic person, it's kind of difficult to get back on track, because a lot of habits, a lot of things that you picked up, thought patterns, can be from these narcissistic people. So you kind of have to clean the slate and get back to knowing who you are authentically. And that's a process. Like, you can't just suddenly one day wake up and know who you are completely. In these videos, I'm just sharing some things that I did. And what these things do is they shift the focus, your focus, from the narcissistic person, from that situation, from what happened, from what you went through, from that victim mindset, to being completely on yourself. So now your agenda is not understanding what happened in the narcissistic situation, why it happened. Now your agenda becomes finding out who you are as a person. So I made a video on that. The first one was birth chart. So yeah, just knowing what your energies are, why you are the way you are, why you behave the way you behave under certain circumstances, in certain areas of your life, and why do some patterns keep repeating in your life, etc. So that was the first video. Today's video is actually a little more esoteric. So it's about past lives and reincarnation. So in the Hindu tradition, we have always believed that we have multiple lives, we get reborn. So basically, if you are an Indian, or if you know this, then it's kind of easier to believe. But I understand if you come from a Western perspective, it's harder to believe, because in the West there's more like the concept of heaven and hell, and having only one life and then going to heaven or hell. So if you don't totally believe in this, then you don't have to see it. But I'm just sharing with you what my experiences are. So, as I have mentioned in a few videos earlier, that the narcissistic person in my life had called me like a witch, and said that I do magic or black magic or whatever. And that had, first, it just, I didn't, I found it very amusing actually. But later on, because of all the signs that I had been getting, I kind of thought that it could be true because I had always had like a fear of persecution, and just a feeling that I'm a little bit off or a little bit different than other people. Um, and it was a lifelong feeling. So, this narcissistic person, I don't know how they knew it, but they kind of sniffed it out. So, so I actually got interested in past lives and things like that, topics that I had never even thought about before. So I did a past life regression, and I'll add the link below to the video. It's by Dr. Brian Weiss. He was, I think, a hypnotherapist, and he also stumbled upon past lives, and then he kind of explored it more, and then he became an expert in it. So yeah, so I did some of his guided meditations, and I would do them and try to like get a sense of my past lives, and it did happen many times. I saw myself as an alien even in one of the past lives. um, like a mantis alien. And then in another one, I definitely was a witch, and I had been like publicly prosecuted and shamed and all of that stuff. So those things, they sometimes, after you have a spiritual awakening, or even before, sometimes they spontaneously come up. Sometimes because of some circumstances in your life, these things come up. And so yeah, that's what was kind of happening with me, and those were the things that kind of needed healing. Not so much healing, even just an acknowledgement. Like as soon as I accepted it or acknowledged it, it kind of became okay. Because before, I was trying to fight this thought that I'm not different, I'm the same. And I was trying to, prove it to people that I am the same, I am the same, I am not different. And then suddenly, like after all this, I just kind of owned it. I kind of owned being weird, I kind of owned being different. And instead of feeling like it's a feeling of shame, I don't think I took pride in it. I just became okay with it. I just became okay with being called different, or being called whatever, weird, or whatever anyone calls you. So basically, I just started becoming okay with it, and as soon as I became okay with it, it was healed. So it just needed acknowledgement. That feeling of, okay, I'm owning this part of me, which is like a witchy part, or whatever magic part, or whatever part of it, or of me it is, I'm owning it. Even without knowing it in detail, I just want to accept it. So that was one experience. And then I also did like a professional past life regression with a past life regression therapist. And in that, I actually saw a lot. I saw one past life in which I was in Egypt, and I was my name that came to me was like Imhotep or something like that. And later I googled, so I didn't google this before. I just got the name Imhotep or something like that. And I saw myself as a messenger to the gods. And what I was doing was, in that life, I was coming down to earth, Egypt especially. I was looking at what is happening, and I would go back to gods, whichever gods they were, and I would tell them that this is what is happening on earth. And I remember like getting really emotional by seeing all the hardships that the slaves are going through, the slaves who build the pyramids. And as that messenger, I was completely heartbroken by so much sadness that I saw everywhere. Not everywhere, but wherever was there in Egypt. So, so I go back to the gods and I ask them that, why did you make this earth? Why did you do this? Why did you create this? And so to understand that, I think I come into my next life, or one of the lives, the other lives that I saw. So in between the lives, I kind of saw myself formless. I was just floating around. And it was very weird because um, I in the life between lives that I saw, I felt no emotion. I felt only peace. And it's just like unbreakable, unshakable peace. And I think it's peace also because uh, there is absence of emotion. Like if you can understand it, there is no emotion. So imagine you as a human feeling no emotion. If you did not have the capacity to feel any emotion, not as a narcissist, because narcissists feel all the negative emotions, but say like an enlightened person, where you can completely detach with all emotions which are present, then what you feel is what we call peace. Right? And so in that state, I did not have a body, but I existed. I was still there. I did not have anything. It was just like, it was pure consciousness. I was pure consciousness. And I could feel other forms around me, but I couldn't see them. But I knew I wasn't alone, or there was this feeling of oneness. Like everyone around me was one, but I could not see anyone. I could not even see myself. Like there was no there was no me to there, I wasn't present basically, but something was present, and that presence was pure presence. It was pure consciousness. So it's a very difficult thing to explain actually, but if you experience it, you know what it is. So it's very difficult to put it in words, because it's something that you can't understand it unless you've experienced it. um so anyways, so then the next life that I saw, I was like a Viking woman, no, named as Helda. And I had a husband in that life, and the husband goes away on a ship somewhere, and I have a son with that husband. And basically it's a world where there's no communication, right? So someone goes away, they go away. The only way you know about them, if they're dead or alive, is if they come back, or if they write letters. But I don't even think Vikings wrote letters and stuff like that. So basically, yeah, in that life I am like unconditionally in love with my husband, and he goes away, leaving me widowed, like not widowed actually. I don't even understand what happens to my husband that whole life. I'm just waiting for him. So but I have a son, and the son grows up. Um, and then uh, and then yeah, then I saw some glimpses of when I was really happy with my husband, like our marriage. I saw a church, um, and then like dinners with friends and all that. And then I see the death scene, the end of Helda's life, in which she is being buried. Oh, yeah, I also see her old age. So I see her old age, and in her old age, she is not as upset about her husband leaving as she is when I first entered the life. So when I saw that life in the beginning, I almost like choked up and I started to cry because so much of sadness came up. And then in that life, like with time, Helda kind of understands that it's okay, whatever happened to his husband, to her husband, he is okay wherever he is. So she kind of develops this unconditional love for her husband and everything. And then she dies basically. And that life, the this woman Hilda, she actually knows like maybe like 15 to 20 people in her entire life, because that's the kind of life she leads. She lives in a village, she has grown up there, she dies there, in the same house. So it's a very different kind of a world where she just knows these 10, 15 people all their life. And it's a beautiful setting, like the setting was so beautiful. It was like out of dreams. I think it's some place in Norway that I saw. And afterwards, like, I went to Google and I googled things, and I think I saw like a Nordic church which is made of wood. It wasn't a white or a stone church, it was like a wooden church that I saw. So yeah, so that I had like that past life experience. I also met a spirit guide called Speeder. He's a white horse, a very big white horse, and completely white. And then I got some messages for this life, like, the therapist, like the hypnotherapist, will ask you to ask the spirit guide some questions like, okay, so what are the lessons of that life, why did I see that life, how does that life relate to this one, and things like that. So I did get many answers, and of course unconditional love is always the message, love is always the answer. um, so yeah, so I did my own experiments with past life regressions. And it was fun. It's basically just something to show you that we live beyond this existence. We A part of our soul or spirit, or however you want to call it, it's always going to exist. So we don't actually have to be scared of death, because unless we get enlightened, which is amazing, which is like winning the jackpot, we are always going to be around in one form or the other. So yeah, it was good. And um, you can also meet people from your past life, in this life, and you'll have a feeling, and you'll get a lot of signs. So any of you who have heard of like twin flame or soulmates, you will meet someone and you will find that instant connect with that person, and you will just develop a bond of love with them. And it's not a worldly sort of love where you need to be with that person to love them, or you need to have something from them to love them. It's a very unsaid bond, and it's a very it's not worldly, it doesn't have to go under a specific category of relationship. It's a bond of unconditional love.